Well, it was funny because Roger Davis was actually playing in front of us, and he was running second. And and it's a par 5 over water, and
double carry or something. It might be as well.
It
might be a double carry. A double carry for a bogey golfer, but there's a fair bit of intimidation.
Basically, yeah. If you wanted to get to the green in 2, you had to take it over the water, and it wasn't a long carry, but it was, it was far enough that you didn't want to miss it, and that would give you the opportunity to go at the green, which is again across the water, and 4 shots sounds like a lot, but I just thought, well, the only way you cannot win this. I mean, it's possible that Davis could have made eagle in front. So 6 was a winning. I had to make 6 to be sure, and I thought the only way you can screw this up is to try and hit it across the water and completely miss it and hit it in the drink, and then you're on the tee playing 3, and then all of a sudden then you're a complete idiot. So don't be an idiot. So I just hit an iron down the left side. I got a bit of stick. The crowd gave me a bit of stick, about about being a bit of a pussy hitting it down the left. And I said to my caddy, I'm happy to be the pussy with the winner's check at the end of it.
Enough.
And I laid it up and hit it on, and as it turned out, Davis only made par anyway. So, and never count your chickens. I remember the New Zealand Open I won at what's now Royal Auckland, Middlemore. I had I think I had a 4 or 5, might have been a 4-shot lead, standing on 18 there, but I wasn't going to smile until I hit it down the fairway there again with the out of bounds on the right.
I saw a New Zealand Open winner put it out of bounds on 18 at Middlemore, 2003. He still won, thankfully. So golf's largely an individual sport, but obviously on occasions you've got to represent your country through the World Cup of Golf and the Alfred Dunhill as well. There's a little piece of advice I heard you mention on an interview a number of years ago, which has since become known as the Turner tip, and I've used it on a couple of occasions. Firstly for myself, but I've also been fortunate to caddy for a couple of events at your new course, Tara Edie, and they had a member guest event there, and the person I was caddying for was actually Tom Doak, and he had he was going quite deep into this member guest event, and a lot of people that were finishing were coming in to spectate. And I thought it'd be a really proud moment for Tom, on his course, leading his event, to have all these people coming in and watching him. But he was getting incredibly nervous, the more matches finished and the more people turned up. So I imparted a little tip to him that I'd learnt off you. And when he sunk a clutch putt to win his match, he turned around and he said, "Thanks for the Turner tip." Now, I believe that came from, was it the Alfred Dunhill or the World Cup? But you're at St Andrews and you're on the 18th and you were standing over a modest putt yourself.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not sure exactly what the tip was, to be honest, but I can tell you the story.
Yes.
Dunhill Cup. We were playing South Africa in the semi-final to see who went on and to play. I think Australia might have been playing the other semi against the United States. I'd always had a pretty decent reputation in terms of I had a pretty good record when I was in front. I think I had 7. I'm pretty sure I led 7 times going in the last round and was fortunate enough to win each time. So it's sort of the word doesn't go around, but people you get a bit of a reputation as being a good finisher, a good closer, and that's kind of helpful when you're in that situation, because the guys you're playing against probably know that you've got a reputation as a good closer. So that can, I guess, intimidating is probably not the right word, but that can have an impact. And so anyway, I was playing Retief Goosen actually, and I think from memory, Frank had got beaten by Ernie Els, and Grant Waite I think was our third, and he'd beaten Wayne Westner, I think it was. Anyway, So I came down to my match, and I had the Doug Sanders putt.
Yep.
Interesting. I think Doug just passed away yesterday or the day before. So sad news to you.
Sadly, yeah.
But yeah. So for those who can remember, Doug had that sort of 3.5, 4-footer downhill left right on the 18th green to win the Open to beat Nicklaus, and famously missed it. And I had that putt. It was sort of it was left edge, just outside left downhill. I mean, if you wanted an intimidating place to have a pretty significant putt to hole, then 18th green at the old course is probably about as intimidating as it gets. And then you're in a team event, and you're representing your country. You've got your teammates, and so the whole it was a pretty intense moment, I guess. And I remember standing over that putt and looking down, and the putter head was shimmering, shaking. And I remember chuckling. I pulled away and had a little laugh to myself. I said, "Oh, well, if the putter wasn't shaking a bit at the moment, then you wouldn't be human, would you?" And okay, so that's okay. You know what to do. Go through your routines and take a few deep breaths, and recognize that that's exactly what ought to happen. And anyway, I was fortunate enough to make the putt, and I'm not sure what the tip was that came out of that.
the turner tip. It was again just channeling those nerves positively. So
I'm a great believer in the fact that I think that the idea that some people have got ice in their veins, is a bit of a nonsense. I think the guys that do the best under pressure are simply the ones that recognize what's happening to them when they get under pressure, recognize that physiological differences and psychological differences occur when you're full of adrenaline, and when it starts pumping. They recognize that quickly, and then they have identified what it is they need to do differently in order to be doing things the same. If that makes any sense. For me, certainly it was, I think I was quite quick to recognize when I was, when there was adrenaline starting to flow, and to what extent I needed to slow down. For me, the golf swing had to feel longer and slower when I was in that situation for it to be the same. If it felt normal, then it was short and fast. That was what the nature of it, or the nature of certainly the way adrenaline affected me. So I was, if I was good at anything, I think it was I was quite good at recognizing when that was happening and not becoming too fazed by it. And as a consequence, I generally did okay when I was in that space. And because not everybody does that, if you do okay when you're in that space, then probably things work out better than they do for a lot of people. And but yeah, it's interesting the things you can remember quite vividly. I can quite vividly remember that part.
Yeah. And it's interesting you're talking right back at the start there about your brother Glenn turning up with bruising all over him. And again, I listened to a New Zealand cricketer speak one night in an after dinner speech, and he was talking about fear and how to channel that fear, and how the very best players in his profession of cricket learn to actually overcome that fear. So to channel that fear and then deal with that fear very quickly. And I can imagine, with all those bruising over your brother, and the fact that he'd still managed to score 4 double centuries was probably no better example than right there. Hey, so 1998, the President's Cup came to Royal Melbourne. Again, Leo Barber's still stalking you because he's working on the ground stuff at Royal Melbourne by that stage. And I managed to get a rake and a bucket in my hand and follow your group in the last day. You're playing Mark Calcavecchia in the singles. I popped my All Black socks on. I had an All Black cap on as well as my uniform. And of course, we had a rain delay there. We had a rain delay probably 6 or 7 holes in. And I perched under the tree just expectantly that perhaps Greg Turner at some stage might recognise the All Black paraphernalia, but it wasn't to be. But that was a wonderful event, Greg. Obviously, yourself and Frank being selected as wild cards by Peter Thompson was both a great gesture, but also a very calculated move on his behalf, because you repaid that with tenfold. And I still remember that putt, or that 18th hole to kick the event off. You were the leading group out. Talk us through that.
Yeah, that was the good thing about when you win, you get to write the history, don't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, it turned out I was lucky enough to be at the President's Cup this year as well, late last year, I guess, still a lot of fond memories, and indeed one of the preview shows they talked about in the newspapers, they talked about the captain's picks through the years that have turned out really well, and Frank and I turned out to be that, and which was fortunate. It was. I mean, Tomo took a bit of a gamble, picking two Kiwis. There was a young Aussie called Robert Allenby. Everybody thought Tomo was
lived over the back fence.
That's right, and had a record worth that. But anyway, Tomo, for whatever reason, decided that or felt that because of the extent that Frank and I had played together in World Cups and Dunhill Cups through the years, and both of us were in reasonable form, that experience would be valuable in a team situation. That he felt that the different pressures of partnering in things like foursomes and four balls, there was a different pressure, and that because we'd done that a bit, that we would be well placed to handle that situation, and as it turned out all right for us. We were actually first up for that first day, first match out.
Yeah.
Was against a couple of guys named David Duval and Marco Mira, who I think were number 1 and 3 in the world at the time. So we weren't terribly hot favourites, be fair to say.
Yeah.
And I remember Tomo being interviewed and saying, "Why did you put it was 8 o'clock in the morning, it was tea time on that first one. Why did you put the Kiwis out first?" And he said, it's a couple of hours earlier in New Zealand. So
look, yeah.
But yeah, I hit the first shot. Actually, it was foursomes, and I thought you get on the first tee of an Open Championship at St Andrews or wherever. That's a pretty excruciating place to be. So I thought but I wasn't ready for the President's Cup. I mean, that was a whole different level again. Just because of the atmosphere, the Australians really, as you'll be well aware, they really got in behind the event. It was a much bigger event than I envisaged it was going to be. It was a much bigger build-up. Being in a team of 12, when you looked at our team, I mean, the American team was obviously enormous, but when you looked at the international team, guys like Norman and Vijay Singh and Ernie Els and Nick Price, you're talking greats of the game, and so just to be in that company and amongst them on the same thing, was added another layer of complexity, I guess. And I remember walking through to the first tee, quite a long walk from the clubhouse to the hole they play as the first in that composite for the President's Cup composite, and there's the 20,000 Aussies there all started chanting Kiwi, Kiwi, Kiwi. Well, that's a bit unnerving. We haven't had that much support from the Aussies since Gallipoli. But and then to walk down onto the first tee and there's the welcoming group, and you're shaking hands with there's Jack Nicklaus and Peter Thompson and John Howard and George Bush. So shake their hands, and then you've got a hit.
Yeah.
I've never been so happy to see a ball get airborne and go in the general direction. But it was just a fantastic week, and we really gelled well as a team. I actually wasn't playing that well going into it. I played really well most of the year, and I was just starting to struggle. The form wasn't fantastic, but I managed to hold it together and play well enough to end up with Frank and I had a great win that day, and we had a really good win the next morning against Davis Love and Justin Leonard, I think, and then I think I had a half in the end with Kalkovikia, so I had I could feel like I made a decent contribution. But that was a great course, an incredible event. That was one of the weeks, perhaps the week I look back on most fondness.
Yeah. Likewise, Greg. It was fantastic. I mean, I remember just standing behind the 18th green and watching the players come off, and they came over to the ground staff and they were high-fiving and thanking us. It was unbelievable. It was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't notice the All Black. It must have been in the zone.
I just didn't get your handshake, but I did get your golf ball.